The dauntless horizon drifted through the black void, its hull scraping invisible trails through the dense nebulae of the Perseus arm. Captain Juno Vance stood on the bridge, eyes fixed on the glowing readouts. Their mission was routine, charting uninhabited star systems, mapping spatial anomalies. But routine had a way of unraveling fast in the deep reaches of space. "Captain," the communications officer, Ensign Park, called out, voice tight, with disbelief. "You're going to want to see this." Juno stepped forward, glancing at the data feed. A faint, repeating transmission blinked from the uncharted system ahead, a pulsing distress signal. The pattern was irregular, too structured to be random interference, yet ancient. It resonated like a ghost's whisper from a forgotten world. "Signal strength?" Juno asked. "Faint. Originates from the planet in orbit around the third star. Designation Theraxis 7, Park replied. But the system was classified as dead. No known life signs or activity for millennia. Juno's jaw tightened. "Bring us in closer. Let's see if we can get a clearer read. Quiet systems like this don't just start talking on their own. They die." Dauntless Horizon slid toward Theraxis 7, its engines humming low. Outside the view screen, a shattered planet loomed, its surface scarred with deep craters, jagged mountain ranges, and eerie glimmers of crystalline cities buried beneath thick dust. As they closed in, the signal's rhythm sharpened, like a heartbeat trying to reach out from beyond. The science officer, Dr. Malik, tapped at his console. "The atmosphere is toxic. High levels of heavy metals, no chance of surface life, but the signal definitely originates below the crust." "Prepare the landers," Juno ordered. "I want a team down there immediately. If something's alive, we're going to find it." The landers dropped through the dense atmosphere, engines straining against gravity. The surface was a wasteland of fractured glass towers and rusted machinery, the remnants of a civilization erased by time. The air crackled with static energy, and the faint hum of the distress beacon thrummed underfoot. Leading the expedition, Lieutenant Soren knelt beside a broken transmitter console, brushing decades of dust away with gloved hands. "These ruins, they're unlike anything we've ever seen. Crystal architecture fused with metals I can't identify." Suddenly, the ground beneath them trembled. A low rumble echoed through the canyons of shattered glass. The team froze as a network of ancient security drones blinked to life, their weapon systems sparking erratically. "Contact," Soren barked. "Defensive systems active. Pull back." Phantom-like drones surged forward, their targeting lasers tracing deadly. Orcs. The landing party scrambled back to their vehicles, firing warning shots. The dauntless Horizon's orbiting guns blasted through the drones, but more emerged from the shadows, relentless and precise. "Captain, we have a problem," Malik reported over comms. "The planet's automated defenses are activating, possibly triggered by our presence." "Abort surface operations," Juno commanded, heart pounding. "Get the team out before we lose them all." The landers lifted off amid laser fire, narrowly dodging blasts as they climbed toward the ship. Inside the bridge, Juno watched the visuals tense. The planet below pulsed with forgotten anger. Back aboard, the medbay hummed with quiet urgency. Analyzing the signal, Dr. Malik's eyes widened. "Captain, this distress transmission is a looped message, old but not random. It's definitely a call for help." Juno folded her arms. "From who?" "Unknown," Malik said, but preliminary scans picked up faint biosignatures beneath the surface, very weak but definitely organic. Suddenly, the ship's alarms blared, a violent shudder rippling through the hull. The bridge shook violently as the ship's sensors flagged an incoming projectile. "Shields up! Evasive maneuvers!" Juno shouted. The screen lit with a deadly streak, a missile hurtling from the planet. It slammed into the hull, explosions ripping across the dauntless horizon. The crew scrambled as secondary systems failed. "Damage report," Juno demanded. "Hull breach on Deck 7, the engineer called out. "Life support compromised. We're losing power in that sector. Contain the breach. Divert power to shields and engines," Juno ordered, fists clenched. "Prepare for emergency repairs." On the view screen, a shadowy figure flickered near the planet's surface. An unknown enemy had fired on them. "Captain," Ensign Park's voice trembled. "There's more than just a signal down there. Something or someone wants us gone." Juno stared at the ghostly planet below, the pulse of the signal like a heartbeat calling out through the void. "No," she said quietly. "They don't know who they're dealing with. We're not leaving. Not yet." The dauntless Horizon limped into a safe orbit, its crew shaken but determined. Below, the silent world of Theraxis waited, holding secrets that could change the galaxy's fate, if humanity could survive long enough to uncover them. The dauntless Horizon trembled from the earlier missile strike, its hull groaning under the strain of emergency repairs. Captain Juno Vance refused to let the planet's hostility drive them away. The faint heartbeat in the signal called to her. Somewhere beneath Theraxis's cracked surface, a secret waited. "Lieutenant Soren, gather your team," Juno ordered. "This time we go prepared for a fight." Down below, the dust-choked ruins stretched endlessly, a graveyard of crystal towers and skeletal machines lost to time. The expedition's second landing party advanced cautiously, scanners probing the murky darkness beneath their feet. The ground was scarred with ancient tunnels, partially collapsed but still accessible. "Signal strength increasing," Soren reported, voice tight with excitement and dread. "It's coming from a subterranean vault roughly a click from our position." The team descended carefully into the depths, the air thick with the scent of stale metal and ancient ozone. The walls glittered with crystalline veins, faintly luminescent in the eerie light. At the tunnel's end, a massive door loomed, etched with symbols neither human nor any known alien language. The control panel flickered weakly. "Give me a moment," the tech specialist murmured, fingers flying over her interface. Sparks flew as the ancient system stirred from millennia of silence. With a hiss and a mechanical groan, the door slid open, revealing a chamber frozen in time. Inside, rows of tall pods lined the walls, translucent tubes clouded with frost. Within them, figures lay motionless, pale, humanoid, but unmistakably alien. Their bodies were thin and elongated, with delicate, almost translucent skin stretched taut over skeletal frames. Each pod was a tomb and a cradle. "They're alive," whispered Dr. Malik, his breath catching in his throat. "But in stasis, cryogenic suspension." Juno approached one pod carefully. The faded emblem above it was unfamiliar, a shimmering glyph that pulsed faintly with a blue light. "These must be the source of the signal," she said softly. "The last survivors of the Valari." A sudden crackle shattered the silence as the control panel sparked violently. The stasis systems began to fail, an automated failsafe triggered by their intrusion. "Back to the ship," Juno ordered urgently. "We need to stabilize these pods. If they shut down completely, it'll mean death." Back aboard the dauntless Horizon, the medical team sprang into action. Chief Medic Reyes oversaw the efforts to revive the Valari, working against a ticking clock as pod systems flickered on the brink of collapse. After hours of delicate intervention, nanobot injections, biostabilizers, and genetic scans, one pod hissed open. Inside, a figure gasped, eyes fluttering open to reveal shimmering silver irises and a face lined with millennia of frozen sleep. The Valari awoke slowly, confusion and fear clouding their gaze. "Where?" the alien whispered, voice melodic but strained. "Are we?" "Human," Dr. Reyes answered gently. "You're safe. You're on a human ship. We found you." Not all welcomed the rescue. In a dim corner of the medbay, another pod quivered, releasing a Valari elder, Salen Thur, the last of the council. His gaze was icy, filled with suspicion and a centuries-old bitterness. "Humans," he spat. "Why disturb the dead? Our race was forsaken for a reason." "Forsaken?" Juno's voice was steady but firm. "You were left alone to die. Why?" Salen Thur's eyes darkened. "Because the galaxy turned its back on us. Betrayed by allies, hunted by enemies, we were forgotten." Meanwhile, tensions on the ship spiked. Security reports flagged strange activity, unauthorized access attempts and system Breaches. Ensign Park discovered a shadowy figure lurking in the ship's corridors, moving with lethal precision. Saboteur, Park breathed into her comm. Someone doesn't want us helping the Volari. Juno tightened her grip on the command console. Find them, and find out who's behind this. That night, as the ship orbited silently above the desolate world, the revived Volari gathered in the conference room. Eleni, the youngest and most open-minded of their kind, stepped forward. "We have waited in silence for too long," she said, voice trembling but resolute. "We are weak, but not finished. The humans saved us from oblivion. Perhaps, together, we can find hope." Juno met her eyes and nodded. "We'll protect you. We won't let your story end in silence." But somewhere in the shadows, the saboteur watched and waited. The past was not done with the Volari, or with humanity's unexpected alliance. The dauntless horizon floated in orbit around Theraxis, a fragile sanctuary in the blackness of space. Captain Juno Vance watched the hollow projection of the Volari survivors pacing the conference room, their faces etched with exhaustion and mistrust. The ancient race, once proud and influential, now seemed fragile shadows of their former selves. "Status report," Juno demanded, turning to Dr. Malik. "The Volari physiology is fragile. Long stasis has weakened them, but they're stabilizing. We've decoded fragments of their language and history. It's complicated." "Complicated?" Juno echoed. Malik sighed. "Their archives reveal a galaxy-wide betrayal. Volari were peacekeepers, but powerful factions saw them as obstacles. A conspiracy formed to isolate and eliminate them. Deliberate abandonment during a synthetic war, leaving them to perish." Juno's jaw clenched. "And no one lifted a finger?" "Not a soul," Malik confirmed grimly. The galaxy turned. "It's back." In the medbay, Ceylan Thur, the Volari elder, stared coldly at the human technology around him. His eyes were sharp, distrust burning beneath centuries of pain. Juno approached cautiously. "Elder Ceylan," she said softly, "we want to help, but we need your trust." Ceylan Thur's voice was low, edged with bitterness. "Trust is earned, and I've learned the hard way. The galaxy's memory is short and its heart colder. Why should I believe you will be different?" Before Juno could answer, the room's alarms blared, a warning from the ship's sensors. "Captain!" Park's voice crackled through the comm. "An encrypted transmission just came through. Origin unknown, but it's definitely from a Volari warship. The signal warns of a looming threat." Juno turned back to the projection. "Put it on screen." A flickering hologram appeared, grainy, but unmistakably Volari. A commander's face, tense and desperate, spoke through static. "To any who survive, beware the coalition. They seek to finish what was started. The Volari must rise again or fall forever." The room fell silent. Juno's mind raced. "Hostile factions from the past may still be active," she said grimly. "If they want the Volari gone, we're targets now." Tensions aboard the dauntless horizon worsened. Security logs flagged suspicious activity. Attempts to hack critical systems, data breaches aimed at Volari archives. Ensign Park worked feverishly, tracing the digital trails. "We have a mole," Park reported. "Someone inside the ship is sabotaging our efforts and feeding information to unknown parties." Juno's fists clenched. "Lock down the ship. No one leaves or communicates without clearance." Meanwhile, the Volari survivors wrestled with their trauma. In the dim corridors, Eleni confided in Dr. Malik. "We thought ourselves forgotten, dead in the eyes of the stars," she said quietly. "But humanity has given us a second chance. I want to believe in that hope." Malik nodded. "You're not alone anymore, but hope alone won't keep you safe." Suddenly, an explosion rocked the ship. The lights flickered, alarms screamed. Smoke billowed from the lower decks. "Sabotage!" Juno shouted, racing to the emergency control station. Damage reports flooded in. Critical systems offline, including parts of life support. Fire teams mobilized, but the crew's nerves were fraying. "Find whoever did this," Juno ordered. "They want us dead. We need answers before it's too late." The next day, diplomatic pressure arrived. A message from the Galactic Concordium, the Union of Starfaring Civilizations, arrived cold and threatening. Human intervention in the Valari sector is unauthorized. Cease all actions or face sanctions. Juno gritted her teeth. The old powers feared a rekindling of the Valari presence. Too many secrets, too much potential upset to the galactic balance. We're not giving up, she vowed aloud. Not while there's a chance to save a people left to die. Late that evening, as the crew scrambled to repair the ship, a new crisis erupted. Eleni, the youngest Valari, disappeared. Security footage showed her walking into a restricted area, but none saw her leave. Juno's voice was cold with fury. Find her! Now! The search was frantic, spanning corridors and docking bays. Panic began to spread. Minutes later, a distress call crackled over the comms. Captain, it's Eleni. She's been taken. Someone's holding her hostage in the Yao. Old cargo hold. Juno's heart pounded as she assembled a rescue team. Time is running out, she said. If this is a message, it's meant to break us. We don't back down. They moved quickly, weapons drawn, tension thick in the air. The cargo hold was dark and silent, except for the faint sound of breathing. Suddenly, the hostage-taker revealed themselves, a shadowy figure cloaked in dark armor, voice distorted. You should have left the Valari buried, the figure hissed. Their return will mean war. The standoff was brutal but brief. Juno's team overwhelmed the kidnapper, freeing Eleni unharmed but shaken. She looked up at Juno, eyes fierce despite the fear. This war they warned about. It's closer than we thought. Back on the bridge, Juno stared out at Theraxis, determination burning in her chest. They betrayed your people once, she said softly. We'll make sure it never happens again. But in the shadows, unseen enemies stirred, ready to strike again. The dim glow of the Dauntless Horizons conference room cast long shadows over the assembled crew and Valari survivors. The air was thick with unease and unspoken fears. The kidnapping of Eleni was a stark reminder that their fragile alliance teetered on the edge of disaster. Captain Juno Vance stood beside Eleni, whose silver eyes, now wide with determination, met her own. The young Valari survival was a beacon in a sea of suspicion and mistrust. We can't afford fractures, Juno said firmly. We're bound together now, human and Valari alike. If we fracture, we lose everything. Eleni nodded, her voice steady despite lingering fear. I want to understand your people, Captain, and I want you to understand mine. In the following days, the two forged a bond, one born from necessity but growing beyond it. Eleni showed Juno ancient Valari holoscripts, revealing glimpses of their culture, harmonious cities built on shared knowledge, values of peace, and deep connection to the cosmos. You believe in unity, Juno said one evening, watching the holoscripts flicker. We're not so different after all. No, Eleni agreed. But our pasts are heavy. We carry the weight of betrayal, and our enemies are still out there. Meanwhile, aboard the ship, paranoia spread like wildfire. The saboteur's identity remained elusive. Ensign Park worked tirelessly with Security Chief Ramirez to trace the mole. It's someone with clearance, Park explained. They know our systems intimately. I've narrowed it down to a handful of crew. Juno convened a tense meeting with her officers. We don't know who to trust, she admitted. But if we're going to save the Valari and ourselves, we need to root out the traitor. Tensions between humans and Valari surfaced during a diplomatic meeting. Ceylon Thur the Elder questioned the humans' intentions openly. You saved us, Ceylon Thur said, voice cold and heavy with accusation. But why? What do you seek? Juno met his gaze evenly. Because it's the right thing to do. Because we believe no race should be left to die in silence. The room was silent, the words hanging like fragile glass between them. The fragile peace shattered when the saboteur struck again, this time targeting the Valari archives. Vital. Data was corrupted, years of Valari history and technology on the brink of erasure. Juno slammed her fist on the table. This ends now. With Eleni by her side, Juno proposed a joint human-Valari security task force combining strengths to hunt down the saboteur. As the search intensified, Eleni revealed something startling. "There's a faction within the Yao Valari," she whispered, "who believe we should remain hidden, forgotten. They see any contact with humans as a threat." Juno frowned. "Internal enemies." "Yes," Eleni replied. "Enemies both within and without." The breakthrough came when Park traced a series of encrypted transmissions to a hidden cargo bay. The team moved swiftly, weapons ready. Inside, they found a Valari technician, Kalen, his eyes wild, hands shaking as he erased data drives. "You don't understand," Kalen shouted, cornered. "The Valari must stay lost. Humanity's arrival will bring destruction." Juno stepped forward, voice calm but resolute. "We're not your enemy, Kalen. We're your chance." Kalen hesitated, then slumped, defeated. The revelation shook the Valari survivors. Seilanthur confronted Kalen later, voice low. "Fear is a poison. It blinds us to our own strength." Eleni placed a hand on her elder's arm. "We can be more than survivors. We can be leaders, together with humans." As the alliance deepened, so did the threat. Sensors detected a fleet approaching, enemy warships bearing the markings of the coalition the Valari warship warned about. "We're not just fighting for survival," Juno said, voice steel. "We're fighting for a future." In the tense hours before battle, Juno and Eleni stood side by side on the bridge, gazing at the incoming fleet. "Whatever happens," Eleni said softly, "we face it together." Juno smiled grimly. Together. The cold expanse of space beyond the dauntless horizon darkened as the distant glint of enemy warships grew larger and more ominous. Captain Juno Vance stood at the helm, her eyes unblinking, watching the approaching fleet through the ship's reinforced viewport. "Commander Malik," she said, voice steady despite the knot tightening in her gut. "Status on their numbers and armaments." Malik's fingers flew across his console. "At least 20 capital ships, with dozens of escort frigates. Weaponry far more advanced than what we've seen before. Energy projectors capable of penetrating our shields in seconds." Juno's jaw tightened. "They want us dead." In the medbay, Eleni sat quietly beside Seilanthur, their hands lightly touching. The elder Valari's eyes were clouded with ancient grief, but there was also a flicker of renewed hope. "The coalition fears our return," Seilanthur murmured. "They want to erase us, to keep the galaxy's secrets buried." Eleni nodded. "But we've been given a second chance. We cannot let fear dictate our future." Back on the bridge, the crew prepared for what could be the greatest battle in their history. Juno walked through the corridors, her presence steady and inspiring. "All hands, prepare for combat operations," her voice echoed through the ship. "Secure all stations. This is not just our fight. It's for every soul who's been abandoned, forgotten, or left behind." In the shadows, the traitor Kalen sat shackled in the brig. He stared blankly ahead, muttering to himself. Ensign Park approached cautiously. "Kalen," she said softly, "why did you do it? Why sabotage your own people?" Kalen's eyes flickered with pain. "Because the galaxy is merciless. Our survival depends on silence, on hiding. Bringing humans here, it's a death sentence." Park's voice was firm. "Or it could be a new beginning." Hours later, the enemy fleet broke through the nebula, weapons glowing ominously in the darkness. The dauntless horizon activated its defense grid, shields flaring to life. "Target their lead ship," Juno ordered. "Disrupt their formation." Missiles and energy blasts tore through space as the battle erupted in a dazzling, deadly display. The dauntless horizon weaved through the onslaught, shields flaring under heavy fire. In the middle of the chaos, a Valari warship emerged from behind the nebula, ancient, battered, but still formidable. Its captain's voice rang clear over the comms. "Humans and Valari, together we fight. For survival. For redemption." Juno allowed herself a small, grim smile. Together. The battle raged through the void for hours, the dauntless horizon, taking heavy damage but holding its ground. On the bridge, Juno's orders were precise and relentless. Divert all power to shields. Prepare boarding teams. We take the fight to them. In the heat of battle, Eleni led a team aboard the enemy flagship, navigating tight corridors and disabling their systems. Her silver eyes burned with determination. "This is our fight," she whispered. "For the Valari, for humanity." Back, on the dauntless horizon, alarms blared. Critical breach detected in engineering. Engineers to Deck 7 now. Juno called out, "Keep those systems online." Amid the chaos, the human and Valari crews fought side by side, their bonds forged in fire. The traitor Kalen watched from his cell, a flicker of regret in his eyes as he realized the strength of their unity. As the battle's tide slowly turned, Juno stared out at the distant stars, thoughts racing. "This is only the beginning," she said softly. "The galaxy is waking up, and so are we." The air in the dauntless horizon was thick with smoke and the scent of burning circuitry. Alarms blared relentlessly, drowning out every other sound as emergency crews rushed through the narrow corridors. The battle had pushed the ship to its limits and beyond. Captain Juno Vance stood firm on the bridge, staring grimly at the damage reports. The hull integrity was down to 50%. Life support was unstable in several sections. Yet despite the chaos, the enemy fleet was retreating. "Damage report," Juno demanded, voice steady but urgent. "Critical, Captain," Malik replied, tension etched into his features. "We lost propulsion in 2 sectors. Shield generators are barely holding. If we don't repair fast, we won't last another engagement." Juno's jaw clenched. "Prioritize life support and propulsion. We have to keep moving." Elsewhere, the Valari survivors gathered in the medbay, tending to the wounded. Seilanthur sat beside a young Valari soldier with a shattered limb, his hands glowing faintly as he worked to mend the injury with ancient Valari healing techniques. Eleni stood nearby, watching with a mixture of admiration and sorrow. "Our people have always paid the highest price," she said quietly. Seilanthur nodded, his gaze distant. "Survival demands sacrifice." Back on the bridge, Juno's comm crackled to life. Ensign Park's voice was urgent. "Captain, new intel from decrypted enemy comms. They're regrouping near the nebula rift. It's a trap." Juno's eyes narrowed. "They want us to follow," Malik added. "The rift is unstable. Gravity fluctuations, radiation bursts. If they lure us in, we risk losing the ship entirely." Juno turned to her officers. "We can't avoid the fight. If we don't confront them, they'll continue hunting the Valari. And us." Meanwhile, Kalen sat in the brig, staring at the cold metal walls. The weight of his betrayal pressed heavily on him. The alliance he tried to sabotage was fighting not just for survival, but for something greater, a chance at redemption. Park approached cautiously. "Kalen, your knowledge could save lives. Help us prepare for the next battle." Kalen looked up, haunted but resolute. "If I'm to atone, I must face what I helped create." The crew worked feverishly, patching hull breaches, rerouting power, and readying weapons. The dauntless horizon limped toward the nebula rift, a swirling mass of chaos in the void. Juno stood before her crew in the briefing room, her voice steady despite the mounting pressure. "We face a cunning enemy who will use the rift's dangers against us. We must be smarter, faster, and united. This battle will decide not just our fate, but the future of 2 species." As the ship entered the rift, sensors flickered and warbled under the intense radiation. The enemy fleet emerged from the shadows, their weapons blazing. "Brace for impact," Juno commanded. The ship shuddered violently as blasts struck the shields. The crew held their ground, fighting through system failures and blackouts. In the thick of battle, Eleni and her team infiltrated an enemy cruiser, disabling its weapons array, but an explosion rocked the ship, sending her flying across the corridor. She groaned, struggling to rise. Nearby, a human soldier lay injured, blood pooling beneath him. "No time to help him now," she whispered, pushing herself up. "We finish this, then we save lives." Back on the dauntless horizon, Juno coordinated the defense with ruthless precision. The ship's weaponry began to turn the tide, crippling enemy vessels one by one. Still, the cost was high. Crewmates fell, systems failed, and the rift's unstable nature threatened to consume them all. Finally, with a last coordinated strike, the enemy fleet broke and fled into the nebula's storm. The dauntless Horizon limped out of the rift, battered, but alive. In the aftermath, Juno gathered her exhausted crew. "We survived because we stood together," she said, voice heavy but proud. "But this victory is only the beginning. The galaxy will test us again, and we must be ready." In a quiet corner of the ship, Eleni sat beside Seilanthur, both gazing out at the stars. "We lost much," she said softly, "but we gained something precious." Seilanthur smiled faintly. "Trust, alliance, hope." As the ship charted, a course to the Valari homeworld for refuge and rebuilding, Juno knew the real battle for survival, for justice, and for unity was only just beginning. The battered, dauntless Horizon glided through the cold void, heading toward the Valari homeworld, Theraxis. The scars of battle ran deep, not just in the ship's hull, but in the hearts of everyone aboard. Captain Juno Vance stood on the bridge, eyes scanning the distant blue-green orb that held the promise of sanctuary, but also uncertainty. "Approaching Theraxis orbit," announced the navigator, sensors detecting unusual activity on the surface, energy readings consistent with large-scale machinery. Juno's brow furrowed. The enemy didn't retreat without a plan. Below deck, Eleni pored over the data with Dr. Malik and Seilanthur. The energy signatures on Theraxis were unlike anything they'd expected. Massive, deliberate, and ominous. "The Coalition is here," Seilanthur said quietly. "They seek to control what remains of Valari technology." Eleni's hands clenched. "They want to use our home against us," Malik added. "And if they seize it, they'll have a foothold no one can challenge." The atmosphere aboard the dauntless Horizon was tense. Human and Valari worked side by side, preparing for what might be their greatest challenge yet, defending the birthplace of a forgotten race from an enemy determined to erase their legacy forever. Juno addressed the crew. "We've fought hard to survive. Now we fight to reclaim our future." Suddenly, the ship's communications array crackled to life. A distorted voice echoed through the bridge. "Valari remnants and human interlopers, surrender Theraxis and submit to the Coalition's will. Resistance is futile." Juno's voice was cold steel. "We don't surrender. Not today." The dauntless Horizon descended toward the planet, cloaked by Valari stealth technology. Juno led the landing party, including Eleni, Seilanthur, and a squad of Marines. The landscape was both beautiful and haunting, a mix of sprawling cities reclaimed by nature and towering ruins humming with forgotten power. As they advanced, shadows moved. Coalition forces ambushed them, their weapons cutting through the undergrowth. A brutal firefight erupted. Juno's squad fought fiercely, their movements fluid and precise. Eleni used Valari psionic abilities to disrupt enemy communications and defenses, a blur of silver energy against the dark green foliage. Seilanthur rallied the survivors, their ancient knowledge guiding tactical strikes. Despite the enemy's strength, the alliance held ground. In the heart of the ruins, the team discovered a massive structure, a Valari ark designed to preserve the knowledge and power of their civilization. Its core pulsed with energy, a beacon of hope and danger. "This is what they want," Eleni said, awe and fear mingling in her voice. "The legacy of our people." Juno nodded. "We protect it at all costs, but the Coalition unleashed a devastating weapon, a gravity bomb designed to collapse the ruins and bury the ark forever." The ground trembled. Juno barked orders to evacuate, but Seilanthur stayed behind. "My people's legacy will not fall," he declared. "I will stabilize the core." Eleni grasped his arm. "You can't do this alone. We stand together," Juno said firmly, stepping beside them, Valari and human alike. With moments to spare, the team worked in unison. Eleni channeled psionic energy to reinforce the Ark's shields, while Malik and engineers rerouted power. Juno coordinated defensive fire, buying them time. The bomb detonated, shaking the planet, but the Ark held, its energy glowing brighter than ever. In the aftermath, the Coalition retreated, their forces broken and morale shattered. Juno surveyed the battlefield, exhaustion and relief mingling in her eyes. "We saved more than a home today," she said softly. "We saved a future." As the survivors gathered around the Ark, Seilanthur addressed them. "The past is not our chain," he said. "It is our foundation. From this legacy, we build anew." Eleni stepped forward, voice strong. "And we do it together. Valari and human, bound by fire, trust, and hope." Back aboard the dauntless Horizon, Juno watched the stars, knowing their journey was far from over. "The galaxy is waking," she whispered. "And so are we." The stars beyond the viewport of the dauntless Horizon gleamed with a newfound brilliance, as if the galaxy itself recognized the fragile hope now kindled within its endless depths. Captain Juno Vance stood silently on the bridge, absorbing the stillness after the storm. The Coalition's forces had been scattered, their grip on the outer systems broken. The Valari homeworld, Theraxis, was no longer a tomb but a beacon, a symbol of survival and rebirth. Below deck, the Valari and human crews worked side by side in harmony, repairing the ship and rebuilding the damaged outposts. The Valari Ark pulsed steadily, its vast knowledge now a shared treasure rather than a secret hoarded in fear. Eleni stood before the Ark's core, her silver eyes reflecting the soft glow of ancient glyphs that now hummed with renewed life. "This legacy belongs to all of us," she said softly. "Not just the Valari, but to those who choose to protect it." Juno entered the chamber, placing a steady hand on Eleni's shoulder. "We've come far, and yet this is only the beginning." Eleni nodded. "The galaxy will challenge us, but together we're stronger." Outside, Seilanthur oversaw a gathering of Valari elders and human diplomats. The fragile alliance was formalized, a pact to explore, protect, and share knowledge across the stars. "This union is not born from desperation," Seilanthur declared, "but from a vision of a future where no race is forgotten, where strength comes from unity." The crowd erupted in applause, hope glowing in every face. Meanwhile, Kalen, once the traitor, stood trial under the new alliance's laws. His actions had nearly destroyed their fragile hope, yet his cooperation had been vital in exposing the Coalition's plans. Juno watched from the back of the courtroom as Kalen accepted responsibility, a humbled man seeking redemption. "Justice is more than punishment," Juno murmured. "It's about restoring trust." The crew celebrated their victory, but remained vigilant. The Coalition's reach had been wounded, not destroyed. The galaxy was vast, and threats lurked in its darkest corners. Juno convened her senior officers in the command room. "We rebuild, we protect, and we prepare," she said. "This alliance will be the light that guides the lost, the forgotten, and the brave." Eleni joined her there, her expression fierce with determination. "We will rebuild Valari civilization, but more than that, we will build bridges between worlds." Juno smiled, a rare softness in her eyes. "You've changed more than your own people, Eleni. You've changed us all." As the dauntless Horizon charted a course toward new frontiers, the Valari Ark safely secured within its chambers, Juno reflected on how far they had come, from forgotten exiles to guardians of hope. Humans and Valari now stood together, a united force in a galaxy waking to new possibilities. In the quiet of her quarters, Juno opened a hollow message from Earth. It was a simple transmission, yet its meaning was profound. "Welcome home." Outside, the stars stretched endlessly, a canvas of infinite potential, and as dawn broke over the horizon of Theraxis, so too dawned a new era, one where humanity and the Valari would write their story together, bound not by fear or survival alone, but by hope, trust, and the promise of the future, the end.